Thank you as always for joining me, and I know that even in the deepest or joyful conversations that there's something we can learn and apply. Until next time, I hope that you are doing better. If not, we will be back to talk some more and handle it. Peace to you and yours. Stay grounded.
Happy Friday. I hope that you have had the most amazing week. I'm going to get into this intro, but I got a couple of questions to ask for those of us who have been in the snow streets. I am not here for it at all, but thank you for tuning into Conversations with Toi. I am Toi, your podcaster. I wear a lot of hats, which is also content creator, writer, freelance writer, blogger, social media maven. I help other companies with their social media. I do UGC, which is user generated content, meaning content that doesn't necessarily show up on my pages, but you may have seen some of my content in different places and thought to yourself, what? That is I've been doing that for quite some time, and be honest with you, that's where the real money is at. In case anybody's like, I want to be a content creator, I want to be an influencer, UGC is where it's at. Anywho, those are the hats that I wear, but the two hats that I love being the most is being wife and mother of 3 amazing children. They are doing so good. I'm so proud of them. Shout out to them, and because they listen, and shout out to their friends. I'm going to give a special shout out to all 3 of my kids' schools and their friends who are great listeners of the podcast, and they're also great supporters, and they send me messages through my kids all the time. So I'm going to say a general shout out so that no one is feeling like one is left out or one is above another. Thank you for all your support. With all of those good news and things in the way, listen, I am feeling very cold. I am cold in these very much internet streets. It is brick out here, brick city. We have been experiencing this huge storm that hit. And let me just say this to the naysayers who were just like, no, the snow's not going to come. There has been plenty of times when the meteorologists have gotten it wrong. But when you see multiple diagrams that's telling you, hey, get prepared, I need you to listen a lot more. Because some of y'all are out here in these internet streets looking a hot mess express because you just wanted to believe that the snow wasn't going to come. You didn't get to the grocery store. Y'all were on the streets driving when you weren't supposed to. Y'all were doing a lot, okay? Here is the thing. We cannot talk about how the younger folks, like, them young folks, they don't listen when the adults ain't listening either. Now, I know I can say that because I'm an adult, and I know if your child said that, you would want to, have a conversation with Jesus. But let me just go ahead and say, you cannot, let me repeat, you cannot not listen and then sit around wondering why things are not working out for you. It's not going to work out for you when you're not living right. So the next time somebody tells you to prepare for the storm, if you want to meet them in the middle, but prepare. You should have went and got went to doctors if you needed to. You should have went and attempted to get medication in case you need it. Get some, over-the-counter medication. The worst time to discover you don't have cold medicine is when the cold has arrived and it was unexpected. So next time, let's go ahead and be a little bit better prepared. Go get your food. Don't buy out everything. Get a little of this and a little of that. Like my parents have always taught me, moderation is where you need to be. If it's too much, you might need to cut it back. If you're doing too little, you might need to add a little bit more. But if you hit it right there in the middle, you will always win. As we are thawing out, I just want to go over a couple of snow things that we need to go over again. In Philadelphia, and I'm sure in other places as well, but Philadelphia is its own little city, it's its own little country, it's its own little state, it's its own little everything. And here in Philadelphia, if you park at somebody's spot that they have shoveled out, you might find yourself with a 2-piece and a biscuit. And no, I'm not referring to Popeyes or KFC. Y'all better learn how the streets move, because the streets move differently than the regular world. And Philadelphia, I've been seeing some things. Some people have been seriously injured. There's a man right now fighting for his life. There's been people online on the tick and the talks where they have been doing the most. And I'm telling you, I ain't saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying I understand and I get it because I've been in the city for quite some time. Speaking of, it just so happens to be my Philadelphia anniversary. And I have been here now 15 years. 15 years ago, I made a decision to move to Philadelphia. And I'm not going to say that the decision was 100% like the best thing that I've ever done, but I will say it's a good 60, 70%. And the reason why I don't give it a high 100 is because it wasn't the the picturesque story. You know, my he's Philly born. He's been here his whole life. I met him in college. We met at Penn State. We had this whirlwind relationship, and then we have a family. That's not what happened. We did meet in Penn State. He is Philly born. We met. We dated for the majority of our Penn State career. We went our separate ways. We dated some other folk in between. Things went left. We eventually found ourselves back together. We got married, and we had other children. And I say other children because I feel like our oldest is what brought us together. And then we had our other two. The day that I moved, legitimately the day that I moved up here, is when I discovered that I was pregnant with my son. So there we go. But again, I'm grateful for being here because my family, I feel like, is thriving. My children for sure is definitely thriving. And I feel like, yes, that they could thrive anywhere. Kids are very resilient, but just moving up here has been a blessing. And it helped me to foster my business. It helped me to make this podcast. It's done all the things. So there's so many great things. There's a lot of lessons and some learning curves that I'm going to talk about today in today's podcast. We're going to talk about some learning curves when you want to try a new thing. Everybody's talking about being new, trying something new, being open to new things and new experiences, but you have to understand you better have your wits about you and also learn to put some checks and some balances. These are lessons that I did not know then, but I definitely know now, and we are going to talk about that because that is all about mental health and wellness for our talk for today. However, we have to have a conversation or two about a few things that I have been seeing happening on these internet streets. Outside of you mollywopping people because y'all are taking other people's spots. There was a man legitimately, I saw this story yesterday, and the man literally said that he was addicted to drugging his friends. And I was talking about this story to my mom, and I was just like, we have really gone left in society where we would make a video, edit it to this perfection, and then allow it to be put on the airways that you're admitting to a crime in 3D. Like, where are we at that this would be a thing? Like, normally you would commit a crime such as so, and you would never say anything. You deny it to the T because that's what you probably should be doing. And the only thing I wanted to know was, did the people call the police? Because this was a professionally done interview. This was not something that, how we all have phones, we all have cameras, we all have a tripod. This was not one of those. This was a professionally done. So I just have so many questions to why we want to admit to a crime. These are just some things that I've been seeing on these internet streets. Two artists that are coming out with albums, and the reason why I share them is because I am a fan, I am a fan, I am a fan, and I am a fan. On February 13th, I'm going to be unavailable. I'm going to be unavailable for the full day. Like, I'm just going to be engrossed in music. I don't have anything else to say. I don't know where you'll be, but that's where I will be on February the 13th. This is not a drill. This is not a game. Jill Scott, as well as Jamie Foxx, both have albums coming out, and I am super duper ecstatic. If you are a music person, if you love good singing, when people who actually could sing and hold notes, who can actually sing circles around some of the artists that y'all think are singers and they just really are good at, somebody produced them really well. I'm talking about good singers. Jamie Foxx and Jill Scott, the two J's, are having an album. Not together, but two albums are coming out, and that's where I will be on February the 13th. That's where I will be in a cocoon of nothing but pure music. Please do not disturb. I know I will have a podcast out that day. We probably are going to talk about some of the things that I hear that I feel is my favorite so far, because that's how serious I am. But I am excited for those two artists. And another thing too, music is a great way for mental health and wellness. Like, getting in music and like letting music kind of like heal you, it's nothing like it. Now, I am a PK. That means I've grown up in a church and I love gospel music. But I am also a person who loves all types of music. My mother was involved with music and theater and the dramas and plays and all those things. It just comes naturally to me. My father is a drummer. Again, these things come natural. So when it comes to music, I'm that girl. I am ready for those 2 days. I feel like I'm just going to be like, do not disturb my phone for the rest of the day. If you feel like me and you didn't even know that Jamie was coming out with an album, now you know. Another honorable mention is T.I. is back. If you know anything about T.I., this is for who listen to rap. T.I. is back. He's given us that old school T.I. He's even cut his hair, giving us that OTI look. I'm here for it. Like, me and T.I. music go way back. I know word for word, bar for bar. And it is what it is. So yeah, we got a lot of music coming out, and I love music. So go ahead and listen to Ti if you're a Ti fan, and if you are a Jill Scott and or Jamie Foxx, go ahead and listen. There's a lot going on, but some of y'all's favorite rapper, who is not my favorite rapper, is Nicki Minaj. She has never been my favorite rapper. I have never said she's my favorite rapper. I will say this: I was definitely a fan of I would say a fan of her when she was doing her mixtape. When she first came out and she did that mixtape, I know word for word, bar for bar, right? The music was hot, the beats were hot, her rapping and stuff was hot. She did all that gimmicky stuff, almost like a Lady Gaga, but Lady Gaga has that real raw singing talent. But when she first came out, remember how she was all like, doing the most, just trying to stick out and do the thing, like that was her stick. This, I haven't listened to outside of whatever comes on the radio. I can't say that I was like, oh, Pink Friday is coming out, I'm gonna go ahead and listen. Like, how I'm like already pre-preparing for Jamie, and I'm already pre-preparing for Jill. That's not, I've never had a moment like that for Nicki Minaj. But some of y'all's favorite rapper, because there are still some Nicki stands out here, which I'm still struggling to find out why, is embarrassing the fans of her stands to no end. Her going on there and making a speech about Donald Trump has to be the most embarrassing thing. Now, here's two of my thoughts about this, about as far as the reasons why. First of all, her husband is a PDFer, right? He is a pedophile. This is something that's understood. It's known. This is documented. This is not something where I have to use the word alleged so I don't get sued. No, this is documentation. This is documented. He cannot move out any place without telling the courts where he is at. He cannot even move without technically getting permission before he moves somewhere. This is a PDF. She is not a United States citizen. So between those two issues, I honestly believe that she's doing anything and everything she can to secure some type of pardon for her husband and or citizenship here in the United States. Because Donald Trump don't care nothing about her. Listen, Donald Trump has always been and will always continue to use anybody, whether they black, white, polka dot. As long as they get his agenda across, that is what he is about. So the fact that she is in alignment with him and saying he's the best president that she's ever had, that we've ever had, I don't know who the we is, but we are not together. We are not one on that. Will there be people who will continue to follow her? Of course. Here is the thing. Back in the days, you would never say like, oh, if you vote for somebody and I voted for somebody different, it'd be whatever. That's just your different opinion and that's just your belief system. The way that the world is moving, the belief systems unfortunately have to be a lot higher for why you chose to vote for someone. Let me just say this. I've said this on this podcast before, and I will say this again, especially my Christian folks. A lot of them voted for him because of they believe very strongly in abortion. And I would love to say that there's plenty of people who support that, who also have had abortions. But, in the Christian world, you'll say, well, I was forgiven by God and now I know that's not right. And so I don't want anybody else to kill children and all this other stuff. Here's my flip to that. We're all for making sure that the children are here and we want them to be here. But once you get them here, you won't give anybody assistance for while they're here. If we went by that beliefs, then you can't be on birth control. There's so many different paths that you can go on that. But a lot of the Christian folks decided to vote for Trump for that very reason. A lot of them who very much are full on aware that they need the very services that Donald Trump would make sure you didn't get or has already done so. We just a couple weeks ago, folks was not even getting their food stamps. A couple of weeks ago, folks were losing their job. And by the time that this podcast is posted, we may not even have a budget that's passed and people might be at an impasse where they might not get their checks again. We just went through that. I say all that to say this. Now we're talking about immigration. We're talking about ICE. We're talking about all these different things, but these are affecting real people. Here's the crazy part. It's not just so we can clean up the criminals, because there are American citizens who have nothing to do with any of this, who are now being killed, who are being taken, shipped off to countries that they've never been. There are quote unquote immigrants who are born here and they're not doing anything the legal way. There's nothing legally going on. Everything is about, whatever I want to do. We just pull in there, we grab what we can grab, we get the heck out and we move going about our way. These are types of things that shouldn't even be. But here we are watching children being taken, separated from their parents. We have all these things going on and people who have voted for him are just quiet as church mice. But you can't be so quiet because them same people who are quiet now, weren't y'all the ones loud and crazy when he got into office? It's like you do realize there's timestamps. You do realize that there's stamps, there's ways we can go back and check and verify. I'm just confusion as to why y'all are so quiet now that all these children are getting separated. Why are you so quiet when folks like the nurse that got killed in the streets for just videotaping, wasn't doing anything, and all this stuff that everybody says about black people, why don't y'all comply? There was nothing to comply about. Nothing was happening, and yet here he is without his life. Listen, I don't know why people are quiet, but you have to use your voice, and also know that in using your voice that unfortunately it could cost you everything, because being quiet about it that's not going to stop or resolve anything. Let me just be very clear on that. So let's get into the topic at hand. I said this was my 15th year anniversary moving to the city of Philadelphia from a small town of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'm from a town where you see majority of the people saying how they can't wait to leave this sorry town. I can't wait to leave. There's nothing here. There's no reason why I'm here. I can't stand it here. I want to move. I want to do these things. I want to do all these things. I'm from a town where people say that a lot. But here's the kicker. A lot of them will say that and they will never move. They say it every year. Every year they say they're going to get up and go. They're leaving. They're moving. They move. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And they never do. That's one part. And then there's other people who have to sit there and talk about how bad this place it is. And then they're just like, I don't know. I'm so glad I'm away from there. Here is the reality. I know this is, get your gloves on if you need them, because I don't want you to pass on no germs. But let me be very clear. I don't care if you stay in Lancaster as a small town, you go to a big city, you go live on a farm, you go live on the moon. It doesn't matter where you go. If you don't change some of the habits that are inside of you, you're literally just changing a zip code, but you're not changing who you are. It's not the city by which you live that becomes the problem. It's the you that lives in the city. Let me break this down to you. When I first moved from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Philadelphia, I struggled because Lancaster is a lot slower than it is here in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love, sisterly affection. They move. It's movers and shakers. It's like not necessarily New York, but it's its own city. It's its own thing. And in Philadelphia, there's a lot more to, quote unquote, to do. But here's the kicker. What I've learned after being here, even after the first year, was a lot of that small town mindedness was still going to be the downfall as to why I couldn't do certain things. I'll give you an example. I moved here, had my own car, was doing my own thing, and had access to anything I could have ever wanted. My husband, my now husband, who was my fiance at the time of our moving, never stopped me from getting or doing or having, right? But it was my small time mentality, my own personal small mentality, that would allow me to not move or to do certain things because I wasn't comfortable in it, because I wasn't used to it, because, well, we just don't do that. There was that mindset that had to be broken for me to have the lifestyle that and the way that I move now. I wouldn't have been able to have Toy Time, the blog, the podcast, none of that, without having to unleash that. Because I know some people who have moved from my small town who are in great cities, but they don't utilize their cities like they're supposed to. They never go out. They'll say, oh, I don't have anybody to go out with. And listen, I get that. I struggle sometimes with social anxiety. You want to have somebody else. Like having somebody else is like a comfort. But you got to realize that in life, sometimes you can't always get somebody to go with you. So you got to get real comfortable with saying, okay, I don't have somebody to go with me, but I'm going to go out here and I'm going to just experience a few things on my own. But let me just say, that's how my mindset was, because I'm so used to my small circle of friends. Some people I've known almost my whole life. You know them, or their grandmom, or their aunt, their this, their family name. And that type of lifestyle, again, is beautiful. Like, outside of me having a life here in Philadelphia, if I didn't have such an established lifestyle here in Philly, I wouldn't mind going back to Lancaster, because now with the mindset that I have now, I could go back there and feel like I can move a little bit differently. Now, let me just say, that's not saying I want to move back there. I'm not going back there. I'm saying the mindset that I had then that I have now are two different mindsets. So yes, I could move differently. I could make new friends. I could move a little bit differently because my mindset had to change. You can change your address, but if the mindset doesn't change, you just have a different address. And if you're struggling here, the only reason why you will go somewhere else and struggle is because your struggle is inside of you. It has nothing to do with where you live. I have been in situations, and this is the thing. Now, my father was in the military, so we moved around a lot. Moving around a lot and experiencing different things made me a little different from when I actually was still in Lancaster, because we moved, we did things, we got around, we did, like, there was movement. And I feel like, and this is no disrespect to anybody that still lives in Lancaster, it's not one of those moments where it's like, well, I'm not there, so now them Lancaster people, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the small town mindedness, the people who embody that mindset. And then they say things like, I can't wait to get out of here. You're going to miss it. You are going to miss it. I thrive here. I love it here. I have such a great band of friends here. I have great support system here. And it's not even with my husband's side of the family, like literally just my own. I've come into my own, right? I have come into my own. But even with all of that, the beautiful thing about it is that I still miss the small town. The small town doesn't have to die just because I'm now in a big city. I can have the best of both worlds. Now, thankfully, Lancaster is about an hour and a half, 2 hour tops from Philadelphia. And then when I'm missing it or when I need to see my family, I just jump in the car. I can go get there. I can get there in no time. It's like, for me to go from here to Lancaster, for other people would be like a grudge or a drudge. For me, it's not. Like, I can take that drive as if I was crossing the street. I can do it with my eyes closed at this point. The point that I'm making is that you will miss it. I have times, there's been plenty of times where I've missed it. And there's times where I've just got in a car and just went up there and just experienced the same things. Like, I want to go to a smaller cafe. I want to go to the open market. I want to go to the Amish markets. I want to go see my family. I want to go hang out in some of the spots. I want to go and get a drink with people at some of the hot spots. Like, I miss it, but I miss it with the ability to love it, go back when I need to get that feel of it, and still come back to my city now. And I am thriving because I had to do the work. Listen, it wasn't easy. I struggled. I was like, I can't live here. I got to get back there. I can't do this. I can't. Because again, it had to take that struggle that was on the inside and I had to work through it. So for those who are like, okay, I'm going to do something new, I'm going to move, work on yourself as you're preparing to make this move. Because a lot of people are saying they want to move, but are you moving anywhere in your life? Do you have real movement in your spirit? Are you moving past the uncomfortableness that you're going to experience, because it is uncomfortable going from one place to another and learning how to get acclimated? This is real. As outgoing as I am, I struggled with moving to a new place. It sounded great. It was a great thought process. It wasn't a hard move. It was quite easy. We packed up a U-Haul. We moved everything up here. It didn't take me long to get everything where I wanted to have it. Like, that's the easy part. It's the mindset. Everybody wants to do something new until it's time to do something new. Everybody wants to move and do these great things until it's time to produce. You got to understand a couple of things. When you do move from one place to another, or you do something different that you've never done, it's going to feel uncomfortable. What I need you to do is be okay with pushing through that discomfort. Because if you roll back and want to roll back to run, which is something that I experienced my own self, you are going to not be able to benefit from the move that you're trying to make. Making a physical move should be something that aligns with the physical, the spiritual move that you have in your heart. That physical move should align with a spiritual move. Automatically, hands down, should be unilateral with that type of move, because it's going to take that type of lifestyle. It's going to take that type of movement. It's going to take that type of dedication, so that you're not stuck somewhere feeling like you can't make it through. And the mental health part of this, for me, is one, I discovered that I was pregnant with this baby, so now my hormones are on another level. I was living in here with my mother-in-law, which I would highly not recommend, and I don't care how that sounds. That is the truth. Every woman should have their own castle, and every king needs to put their woman into a new castle. And I thought that we had done it for a reason. We had a 5-year plan because we were making sure that certain bills were taken care of, because we were, just newly engaged. We had a 1 or 2 year old. I think she was almost 2 when I moved here. And so we had this almost 2-year-old. We just got freshly engaged. Let's save money. We're going to make this plan. We're going to move in together. We're going to do these things. It sounds beautiful. It sounds great if it could be done, but there were not enough checks and balances for myself and the things that I needed. And I wasn't getting that from my fiance at the time, my now husband. And we've had conversations about this since then and talked about things that we could have done differently. There's always that shoulda, coulda, woulda after the fact. Here's what I do know. Regardless of all the things that took place that I could go back, I wish there are times when I wish I could go back and fix or change or make different. I would do it in a hot minute. But the other parts is that the lessons that I've learned about myself, about other people around me, about my husband, about my family, about my kids that I've learned in the midst of that shift, because we shifted so much. I think for me too was the shift was so many things was happening at once. I'm newly engaged. I'm also newly pregnant with a baby. I'm chasing a toddler. I am in a different environment. There was too many different moves happening at once, and what I probably should have done was allow certain things to kind of like settle down before adding to my plate. I added too much to my plate, and I wasn't honest with myself, and I wasn't honest with my fiance about what my real quote unquote care level was, and I never expressed to him what my non-negotiables was. I didn't even talk about non-negotiables. I just was like, I'm willing to do it. We got to do this for our family. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I didn't even consider myself, because it sounded selfish to say, well, what about my thoughts? What about my needs? It sounded and it felt very selfish. But I'm going to tell you right now, even if you're trying to move and make a unilateral move with your husband, with your wife, your fiance, your girlfriend, your friend, whomever, you do have to put yourself first, Lucius. You really do have to put yourself first. You 100% should consider how you are going to thrive. What's your non-negotiables? What are the things that you're saying absolutely not, will not put up with? If I had a list now compared to what the list back then was, I swear to goodness it would have been something dumb. Like when we first moved here after I got through the pregnancy, like my biggest thing with my husband was like, hey, I want a box of wine every time in this house. If it goes low, you go get another one. Like there was some little dumb little things, which weren't dumb. They just were my small little things. But I didn't tell him about the things like, hey, I can only deal with disrespectful behavior to this level. I'm going to give respect, but I also don't. These are things that this is, if this is talked about, this is pushed, this button is pushed, I gotta go. I never said that because at the time I didn't even consider that. I didn't think about that. Didn't know what that looked like. Didn't know how to express that. These are things that you should consider because there's so many people who will up and move for whom, whatever, and for whomever, but you're not putting yourself first. And I know that sounds selfish, but sometimes, especially when it comes to your mental health and your wellness, you gotta be honest about what it is that is like the non-negotiables. And I wasn't clear about that. I'm clear now. Oh, I'm very clear now. These are the things that I'm not going to do. Here are the people that I am no longer having a relationship with because the relationship was fake from the jump. I'm not having a relationship with them. I will high and by them. I will be cordial because they're friends, they're family, they're whomever, but I'm not having any relationship with them. I'm not texting them. There is no birthdays. There is no come over for their house. I'm not putting my feet underneath somebody's table. We're not doing that. I'm not inviting them to my kids' stuff. I had people call me out on social media. Well, you didn't invite us to something. My kids don't know you. I know that sounds harsh and I know that's going to come off rough, but I'm going to keep it 100. They know of you, they don't know you. You know of them, you don't know them. And that's just the truth of the matter. But where I'm at now, yeah, I understand my boundaries now. I understand what I will put up with. I understand who I will put up with. And I understand how long I'm even going to be around certain people. It just is what it is. When you go through certain things, you got to learn yourself. I also learned that people will misinterpret my decisions, will misinterpret what I say because they were hell bent on misinterpreting them from the gate because they didn't like me from the jump. I'm okay with that. When I have matured and you grow in your decisions, you get a lot stronger and your no's get a lot more harder. You don't negotiate with them. You don't back it down. You speak up with authority and say, I'm not asking you to like it. I'm not asking for you to agree. This is where the line is and that's where my line is. And I know that now. I didn't know that 15 years ago. Think about that. 15 years ago, basically two kids. Like I have one baby in my belly and one that I'm chasing every single day. On top of my own emotional struggles. On top of the fact that, can I just be honest? I missed my family. I missed my life. I missed my favorite cousin. I missed being able to just do certain simple things that were simple then. They felt like everything. When you move and you see things differently, you see life and how it can move differently. Oh, you're like, oh, shoot, people do these things. But for me, the simple life was just great. And although people from my town always talk about where they're going to move and they can't stand being here, I just want to caution, it's not a bad place. It's just you're not able to figure out your life. It's like a lot of people who don't really have their thoughts together. They don't have an actual plan. They just kind of go on emotions. If they're mad today, that's what they react about. If they're happy today, then everything is about them as today, when they're not having a real plan. Like, if you have not ever sat down and said, this is what I'm going to do in 3 years, but this is how I'm going to make it happen in 3 years. And then you start off day one, every day, what am I doing to get me to that 3-year point? Then you don't have a plan. You have emotions, you have a list of things you would like to do, but you're not being proactive enough to get them done. That's why you're still in the same place. And I'm not talking about location. If you're thinking that I'm specific to Lancaster because I'm from there, that's not what this is about. Then you've missed the entire thing. Lancaster is probably the biggest metaphor that's been happening. But if you don't have a plan, you are never going to go anywhere. You will keep yourself stagnant no matter what your address is if you don't get a plan. A lot of people are sitting there wondering why they're failing is because they failed to plan. You failed to plan, and therefore you failed because you didn't have an actual plan. You had thoughts, nice dresses, night dresses. Now you had thoughts. You had things that felt good to you at the moment, but you're not proactively moving. I remember when I had gotten to my physical breaking point being in this house. And I say this house because we're now moved back into I would say now our home, but it was my mother-in-law's home. That's now in our name now. It's our home. And I remember getting to the point where my breaking point was so severe that I began packing before we had moved out of here, and we moved back right after she passed, right? And I was at the point where I was like, you know what? We're going to be proactive. And so we didn't even have a place where we were going to go. We had no place of where we were going to go. We didn't have an address. We didn't put any applications in for like an apartment. Like, we didn't go looking for anything. But I was at a point where I was like, you know what? I'm packing. So every day I would pack certain amount of boxes. Every day. Because at this point I had 3 children. So all 3. And I was moving around them, and I would pack. I started boxing up stuff, started packing up stuff, started getting rid of stuff. I started getting prepared for stuff. But I started to make a plan. In the midst of my packing, God literally dropped. One of our friends had a home that we could rent, and that's where we went. Let me just say this. That plan, when you get to that breaking point and you start to make a plan, you'll become proactive. Becoming active in the plan that you're setting into motion. You're not just sitting around complaining about how bad it is. I complained, but I complained and I packed. I complained, but I packed, moved, and then that's when I began to look for places. That's when we started looking. Because now my husband saw that I was packing. So he probably either thought one or two things. Either we're going to go together or I was going to leave without him. And I'm going to be honest, it was very much one of those two options. Very much giving one of those two options. But if you don't make it in your spirit to have a plan, you're going to fail every single time. It's not cute enough to just make these cute little lists. You have to say, what are the steps to get me to that point? What are the steps am I going to get to that point? And then make the steps happen. Every day, every week. Hey, what did I do this week to get me closer to that plan? I say that I want to start a new career, but what have I done to get to that plan? Have I tried to find a mentor so they can give me some guidance? Have I researched how much it may be to invest in that? What am I doing every day? What am I doing each week? What am I doing at the end of the month? For instance, y'all do know it's the end of the month, right? Right. We got 2 more days and the month is over. Sunday is February the 1st, right? What did you do in January that's going to get you better to the goal that you haven't set? You remember when y'all did those vision boards, which I have not done one yet, but I am committed to doing I'm not going to do a yearly one. I'm going to do a quarterly one, which I know I'm already in month 1, but I'm going to do a quarterly one. But what am I doing once I set those plans into motion? What am I actively doing in the midst of that? What am I actively doing to get me from point A to point B? What's my check-in going to look at the end of the month that says these are the things that I'm doing to get myself to that, closer to that goal? Because if you start thinking like that, you start moving like that, I promise you doors will open. Doors will open. But when I tell you that you can't get stuck in location, you got to not get stuck in location in your spirit, because you're not going to go anywhere and you don't have a plan to make it happen. And you're wondering why your mind is always racing about, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that. Well, you need to be more sick of yourself. And I hate to have these types of conversations because it feels like I'm stepping on toes. But let me explain something to you. The best thing that I've ever learned was to allow myself to feel that pain of feeling frustrated that I had felt myself and let myself down, because it wasn't enough to wallow in it. Once I allowed myself to get through that emotion, I was like, what am I going to do, baby girl? You got to get up. Pick yourself up. Even if I thought that I had made a bad decision to move to Philadelphia, then it became okay, but you've been here long enough to make something pop. You've been here long enough to make something shake. So yes, you might have come here and you thought I was going to be one thing, but it didn't happen. It came a different way, but you've been sitting. You've been sitting too long to allow this argument to continue without a plan. You've been sitting here. It's not about what my fiance or my husband at the time did or didn't do. It's not about what somebody else played their part. It's like you have been sitting, you yourself have been sitting too long. What you gonna make drop? What you gonna make shake? What you gonna make happen? So I asked you the same thing. What are you gonna make drop? What are you gonna make shake? And what are you gonna make happen? It's no longer enough to have just these cute lists. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to make a change? It may require you to leave the person that you're with. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just telling you the truth. It may come down to that. But you'll know that while you're actively making moves. So you don't got to have, we always say, Lord, show us a sign. Show me a sign. The best sign that you'll get is that while you're making the moves that are unilateral for you and the things that you're trying to accomplish, everything that needs to drop off of your life will promise you it will drop if you start to move. If you make a move today and you start becoming active in that move, and I'm talking about whatever that move represents for you, and you start becoming active, the things that are not supposed to be there will actually drop from your life. This is not this ain't prophecy. This is none of that. I am telling you what I know. If you make the move, everything that's supposed to come to you will come, and the things that's supposed to drop will drop. But you got to be, even if you're scared, even if fear is gripping you, even if the unknown is making you question yourself, I need you to get up, make something drop, make something move, and make something pop right today. Don't wait till Monday. I'm going to get on Monday. If you listen to this and it's a Friday, I need you to turn up. If you're listening to this is on a Tuesday, I need you to turn up in your own life, because you owe it to yourself to see what you're made of. Everybody's already counted you out for years. They said you weren't going to be nothing. They said you weren't going to do nothing. Yeah, you heard that before. But now the only person you get to blame is the person you see when you look in the mirror. Stop looking at the partner. Stop looking at your friends because your friends are not supporting you. I'm telling you from somebody who has dealt with the ins and outs of all those things, until you make something drop, until you make something pop, until you make something happen, you are forever going to be on the struggle bus. But you get to drive if you want to. You got to make a decision. And you got to get up. It's nobody's fault right now. It's you. All about you. You get to make the decision. You got to make it now. With that being said, I hope that something you heard has inspired you. I hope you can learn from the lessons that I've learned and the things I have taken. Let me tell you something. I had some serious L's. I took a lot of L's. And I'm not even counting the L's that took place from other people becoming involved. I'm talking about the L's that I took because I wasn't honest, because I wasn't open, because I wasn't communicative, because I wasn't being true to me, because I didn't set boundaries, because I didn't believe boundaries needed to be set, because I felt like being disrespectful was just the way to handle it, because I wanted to argue my way out of it, because I wanted to cry my way out of it, because I wanted to just do all these different things out of it. I took a lot of L's that I felt like it was pushing me further back. But one thing about timing is that you never lose if you keep pushing forward. And even if you feel like you fall, the best thing you can do, like Aaliyah has told us, get back up and dust yourself off again and try it again. At first you don't succeed, try it again. Let me explain something to you. If the fear of failure is going to grip you, you're going to struggle. But you can get through it if you would learn to just get back up and get back to your list of making something proactively shake. Okay, so that is our episode for this amazing Friday. This is season 14? Yeah, season 14. This is episode number 1. And I'm super grateful for being able to use my voice. I'm hoping that something I said, something landed. Also, don't drug your friends. That man that said that he was drugging his friends, I don't know what he was going through, what was on his heart and mind, but that is definitely not the way to go. That is not what you want. So don't do that. Have yourself a good weekend. We know the drill. One, we have a new month coming up. This is right around the corner. We have a new month, a new way to make a new goal, to make something shake, pop, and move. 2, find at least one activity. I say this every episode. One activity that fills your personal cup. This is beyond who you are as your title, your person, all those things. So I need you to do that. Okay. And other than that, I just want you to have a good weekend and a good next week. And we will be back for more Conversations with Toi.
Welcome to Conversations with Toi, a blogcast tackling life one episode at a time. This is the time to air out life's craziest moments. This space is all about speaking about life's hang-ups and ways in which we can leave better than when we started. Topics are all about ways we can find space to be better in life, love, mental space, and health.